Hello and welcome to another exciting Blender tutorial. My name is Chris Bailey and I'm a Blender YouTuber over at C. Bailey Film. Today I'm bringing you this tutorial with CG Cookie. We're going to be making boiling water. Let's get into it. Go check out our Fundamentals of Animation in Blender course on cgcookie.com, or if annual membership isn't your thing, you can find the course as a standalone product on the Blender Market. Links are in the description below. Okay, so today's plan is to make some boiling water. We're going to start off by making a little container, and we're going to create some bubbles with some particles and create a displaced surface and do some cool effects. We'll also land it with a really cool render and talk about shaders. So I'm going to hit A to select all, X to delete, and I'm going to start off with a cylinder. So I'll just hit S to scale, and let's grab Z and just bring it up so it's sitting on the ground there. And let's go into edit mode, hit 3 on your keypad to go to face mode, and just delete that top face and the bottom face as well. So I'm gonna go to the bottom of the cup and I'll hit Alt there and select that loop, and I'll hit E to extrude and S to scale, and I'll just bring it in. Then I'm gonna hit F3 and type in grid fill. There it is. And just go with the default values there for that, so it's nice and filled. Cool. Now I'm going to hit A to select all, E to extrude, and S, and I'm just going to scale in, but then Shift Z, that turns off scaling on the Z axis. So it's just going to scale on the X and the Y. So I can just bring it in a little bit to create some thickness on my cup. And I will need to grab this bottom bit though and bring it up. So let me switch to transparent mode. Go into side view, hit B to box select, and I'm just going to deselect these. Oops, I meant to do that with face mode. There we go, it still worked. So I've got those selected, so I can hit G and Z and just bring them up until we've got a nice thick bottom there. Looks good. All right, great. Now I'm going to get out of transparent mode, come over to modifiers. I'm going to add in a bevel modifier, and I will adjust it to, I think, 2 segments, and maybe pull the amount back a little bit just so it's a nice little edge. And then I'll take this and I'll add in a subdivision surface and right click shade smooth. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with the way this has turned out. All right, cool. So I've got my cup. Now I want to make something that's going to emit the bubbles. Okay, so I want it to fit this cup perfectly. And we're also gonna need something for the surface of the water as well. So we're gonna use this cup for all of that. And with these bits selected, that we already have selected here at the base, which is the perfect size we need because it fits just right in the bottom of the cup. So I'm gonna hit Shift D to duplicate. That'll make these faces just duplicate, but they're separated now from everything, but they still exist inside this object. So we need to get it out now. I'm gonna hit P, and this will bring up the separate quick menu, and I can select by selection. Now if I leave edit mode, you can see I've got 2 cylinders, and one of them is just this flat bit of polygons that's perfectly sized for the inside of my cup. So this is going to be my emitter. So I'm going to call this EMI emitter. And is there 2 T's in emitter? Or is there just one? I'm not going to spell check today. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate and then grab Z, bring this up just a little ways. This will be the surface of my water. So I'll call this surface. I don't need the bevel anymore, so I can get rid of that. I'll grab my emitter down here, and I'm going to get rid of bevel from that one as well. And I can also get rid of the subdivision surface from that. We don't really need it. All right, let's do the surface first. So I'm going to add in a displacement modifier. Just grab that, click new for a new texture, click this button to take me over to the texture tab, which is also just down here. And I'm going to switch this from image removie, and we're going to go to, what do I want? I'm going to go Voronoi. And this will give us this nice sort of ridged look. Now I'm going to create a little more complexity by changing these numbers a touch. Nothing specific, just kind of randomly drag him around. And that'll just create a little bit of variation in the height and stuff. And then I'm going to come over to this wrench tab to our modifiers, and I'll just adjust the strength. So I don't want it to be too powerful. I might change the scale a little bit. So I'll come over here to the size, and I'll just pull that in until I get a nice scale. And I might create a few more subdivisions for this displacement to work with. So I'll just increase this to 3 on both the level viewport and the render, and I think that looks pretty good. I might round it out with 1 more subdivision. All right, now what we want to do is have this animate. We want this to look like the turbulent surface of boiling water. So I'm going to change the displacement. Instead of using local coordinates to place the noise texture, the Voronoi noise texture, give it another object to use for the coordinates. So I'm going to click object, and you can see this little drop-down menu, and I'm going to create an object in my scene. I'm just going to create an empty and just a plain one, and I will go back to the surface and I'll select that empty right here. Now what this is going to let me do is wherever this empty goes, it's going to take that Voronoi noise pattern with it. So by doing that, now I can animate this empty going up. You can see as it travels up, it makes this surface of the water dance and look like it's boiling. So I want this to just kind of always be going. So I'm going to add a little driver, and I'm going to use the quick way of doing it. So I'm going to click on the Z location of this empty. I'm going to type the hashtag and then type frame. And the hashtag is shorthand for driver. So this is telling Blender, hey, we want this to be a driver. So it'd be the same if we right click and went add driver and put this in as the code, but we could just type hashtag frame. And this frame is a special variable in Blender for drivers that always takes the frame, the current frame of our animation. So in this case right now it's 1, but as we hit play, that number is going to go up. So frame is going to continue to go up. And then I can hit multiply just to slow it down or speed it up. So I might slow it down a little bit. I'll go to like 0.1. So multiplied by 0.1. And so now you can see when I hit play, it's going to dance really, really crazy. And maybe 0.1, maybe you should slow it down a little bit more. I might try 0.05 maybe, just half it. That looks a little bit better. Now I'm going to select this. I'm going to just adjust this just a little bit. I feel like it's a little too peaky. That feels a bit better, more like boiling water, I think. As I bring the size down on this Voronoi texture, you can see it actually gets a bit more rounded. I feel like that almost looks more like boiling water. So I like that, but now it feels like it's going too slow. So I'm going to speed up my empty again and just change this back to maybe 0.1. And that actually looks pretty good, I think. I like that a lot. That looks like boiling water. Does that look like boiling water, or do you think? I think it does. Yeah. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to do is make our bubbles. So I'm going to focus in on my emitter. I'll just go to transparent view so we can see through things. And we need to make a bubble. So I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh, and we'll go for a UV sphere. I'll just drag it off to the side. And I might squash it down a little bit so it's a little bit like ovular. And then right-click Shade Smooth, just to shade it smooth. And let's come back over to our emitter. Let's go to the particle tab, the plus symbol to create a new particle system. And right down here, let's go first to render, and let's select render as halo. Let's change that to render as object and select our sphere, which is going to be our bubble. We're going to turn up the scale random, and we'll increase the scale just a little bit until it starts looking right. It's pretty good. I might want to scale the emitter down just a touch so that it doesn't emit bubbles like within the glass of our cup. I might scale that down just a little bit more. And then I'm also going to apply that scale so it doesn't really mess with the particles. I'm not sure how it will affect things, so just want to be careful about that. Now, one problem is if I hit play, my bubbles are going in the wrong direction. So let's fix that. So let's go to our particle system and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to change, where is it? Field weights. The field weights kind of gives us all the different like weights that are affecting the particle system. And you could change up here in the units, we could go to gravity and like change the speed of gravity and make it positive and stuff, but that's going to change gravity for the whole scene. And if you are using any other kind of physics, it's going to mess things up. So let me show you how we just do it within the particle system itself. So we come all the way down to the bottom. Gravity is set to 1. That means it's just going to take that value, that negative 9 point whatever it is value, and just use it straight up. But we can reverse it by going -1 here in the gravity. And now if I press play, you can see the bubbles are going to go up. So it looks pretty good. They do have a little like dance down though, don't they? I think there's some velocity on here. So let's go up to the physics. And yeah, so right here, velocity, it's got 1 millisecond. I actually don't know what that stands for, but I'm going to hit 0, zero that out. Now they're just going to appear and rise, which is just what we want. And also the simulation ends at frame 200, so that's where it just turns off, you can see. So I might just end here at 150. I don't need to go fully to 200 for this. So the other thing we can do now is we can add a little bit of rotation. So I'm going to turn on rotation in my particle settings, and I'll just turn this up for randomize. I'll go back to the beginning so we can actually see it. And I might just turn the phase up, randomize phase up, and turn on dynamic, and let's just turn it all on. Just turn it all on. It'd be great. You know, let's go crazy. And you can see now it's going to create some cool random bubbles. But of course, look, our bubbles they're rising too high. They're not stopping at the surface of our water. So let's kill those particles. Let's come over here to collect the surface, and I want to go to the physics tab. And on the surface of my water, I'm going to turn on collision. And there's a great little button here called kill particles. Turn that on, and now you can see whenever they hit the surface, it's going to kill the particles. Now there's a chance you might get some breakthrough, and like some of these bubbles might escape that and go all the way up. And that's because over here on the surface, we've got all these different modifiers and stuff, and collision actually ends up being a modifier. So if we put it first, all the way up here, what that's going to do is it allows it to do the calculation based on just that flat, unanimated surface, and it's going to be a lot more consistent and accurate. Whereas the displacement can be confusing. So there's going to be frames where the bubble might actually pass through after it's animated past it, and you're going to miss out on that collision. So I'm going to go ahead and take my sphere and just turn it off. In fact, I might make a collection in case I have anything else I want to turn off. Sometimes when I do this, I'll just make a collection and turn it off, and I can just throw things in there that I don't need. So the particles, once they're referenced, we don't need to see the original object anymore. Now I'm going to select my emitter as well and come down to, where is it? I think it's under render. Yeah, show emitter. And I'm just going to turn that off because we don't need to see the emitter in the render. And I'm also going to go ahead and cache this so that it's like set and I can jump around on my timeline and not worry about, particles disappearing like this. So I'm going to come over to cache and I'll just go bake all dynamics. Now I can actually start my timeline at like frame 30 or something so that we already have bubbles in play for my animation. So don't have to wait for them to begin to float up before I can start rendering. Okay, now what I want to do now is turn up transparent mode and just have a look at how things are going. Yeah, cool. So as these things are breaking through the surface, you're getting that bubble sort of effect that you have when water is boiling. Now you can adjust this a little bit by coming over to the wrench and going to the displacement and just changing the mid-level, and that will rise or lower the displacement. And what you want to do is find a spot where it's like intersecting those bubbles about halfway through. And that's going to give us a good realistic effect, I think. I might bring mine down a little bit more. All right, I'm going to go ahead and create a surface for this thing to stand on. So mesh plane, scale that up like that. And then I'm going to create a camera. Shift A, camera. I'll jump into my camera view. I'll open up the side view, come down to view, and click lock camera to view. This one right here. And I'll roll my mouse wheel back and kind of get a nice frame here so we can actually see it, because we're going to start looking at materials. And I want to actually zoom in a little bit. I want to have a nice kind of compressed look to this, I think. Maybe come up a little bit. I'm also going to take my camera, go to viewport display, and turn up passbar 2 so it blacks out the outside of my frame. And I'll just turn off lock camera to view. If you caught me what I just did there, if you right click anything, you can add it to quick favorites. And I love to add lock camera to view to quick favorites because I'm always popping it out of my cameras. So then you just hit Q in your viewport and you get a list of everything you've added there. Cool. All right, so let's start doing some materials. I'm going to split my view and open up my shader editor. Now we're going to be using cycles for this because we're going to have a lot of transparent objects. We want a lot of refraction. So cycles is really what you need to be using for refraction and all that. Eevee can do it, but it doesn't look as good when you have this many layers of it. So we're going to switch over to cycles. I'm going to switch this to GPU compute so that it can render with the GPU, be a little bit faster. I'll just zoom in so I can see here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on rendered view. Now I'm going to turn off my scene world by just clicking this little drop down, and this allows me to pick just one of the HDRIs that are built in. If you click on the HDRI, you get the selection of all the different types. So we just pull those up, and I'm going to put a material on the surface of my water. I click new. We're just going to create kind of a generic water material. So to do that, we just drag transmission all the way up, maybe like 0.99. Transmission roughness, we could put like 0.01, just a tiny bit. Bring the roughness almost all the way down, and our specular almost all the way up. I like not to do full values because it's I think it just looks a little bit more realistic. Turn my collection back on with the bubble, grab the sphere, we'll put the water material on that, turn that back off. And we can also put it on our cup. So I'm grab here and grab the cup material. Now we are going to want this cup material to be a little different. So I'm going to click this button right here, which will make it its own version. So we've got a new material basically for the cup. And we want to change the IOR for the cup, which is the index of refraction. So I'm just going to change this till we get something that looks good. We can see through, so something like 0.85 maybe. All right, now we need some steam rising from our boiling water. So I'm going to go back into solid shade mode and I'll just select, let's see, what do I want? I'm going to create a new object. I'm going to go Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder, grab it up, scale it up so it just fits within there and intersects the top of my water. And I'm going to then also go Shift A and we're going to create a volume empty. This will be an empty volume, and then I can add in a modifier to that volume, mesh to volume, and then I can select that cylinder. Then I can hide the cylinder, and this will create a bit of volume just rising straight out of my cup. Now I can select this volume, come down here to Materials, click New, and it'll create a principled volume shader, and it'll automatically plug it into the volume. Sometimes it messes up and plugs it into the surface, in which case it won't work, so just plug it into the volume. Then we're going to come over here and grab a noise texture and a texture coordinate node and a mapping node. And just line those up, put the generated into the vector into the vector. And then what we can do is take the factor and let's actually add one more layer. I'm going to add a color ramp, throw that down, put the factor into the factor and the color into the density. Switch back to rendered view and let's kind of zoom in here. And I can adjust this a little bit, bring these together, and you can see we're going to start getting this noise. I'm actually going to use the object vector and select that empty, and that's going to allow the steam to rise, which we can't quite see. It's playing a bit slow for me, but that's going to help the steam to rise up in the air. We might want to adjust the speed of it a little bit. We could, just tweak that empty all day until you get it just right. But I'm going to change the scale of my noise. So I'm going to bring that right down just till it's like this. I think looks pretty good. And the smoke's never going to look quite right until we add a light. So I'm going to add a sun lamp. Just rotate this off to the side and turn it right up. And then maybe bring that Shift D to duplicate, rotate this one, bring it around and turn this one down. I'm also going to take my the world opacity and turn it up so that I can actually see it if I get an angle. Now I'm going to darken my surface a little bit. It's a bit too bright, so I'll select the plane here that's on the ground, click New, and I'm just going to turn it down. Might darken it all the way even. Now with our volume, I'll go back to the volume shader and I'll just add a little bit of distortion as well because that creates these nice twists, which really, feels right for water. I think it looks really cool. And I'm going to take my glass material and I'm going to put a little bit more transmission roughness in it and maybe a little bit of roughness into the surface. It will blur things a touch, but it should look really cool. Now, next thing we want to do is I'm going to create a little hot plate. So I'm just going to go Shift A, Mesh, UV, or Cylinder, sorry, scale that up, scale Z, grab Z, and I'll just have a little something here that I can use. I'll hit new material, I'll turn metallic all the way up and turn the base color all the way down. That looks pretty good. And let's see, I think I'll just do it again. So Shift D to duplicate, scale, bring this one up. And with this one, I'm going to put a different material on. So I'll just hit X to get rid of that. Click New, click the surface type, and just change that to emission by hitting E. And I'm going to go for something orangish red, maybe. Turn it right up. Bit more red. And I'm seeing my emitter in my shot still, so I can grab the emitter. Where is it? And I can come over here to the object properties, go to visibility, and I can just turn off viewport. Nope. Oh, that's right. Go to instancing under the object properties and just turn off viewport, and that will allow us to see it. And last thing I want to do to really sell the effect is to come over here to our render tabs, come right down here to motion blur, turn that on. Now I'm going to send this off for render and let's see what it looks like. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial today. Thanks so much for watching. If you did, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Check out cgcookie.com. We got a lot of cool stuff there for you. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know what kind of tutorials you'd like to see in the future. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.